Yeah, let's talk about this second stimulus because there is movement from the White House. There is big movement from the White House calling for a second stimulus. We're hearing more momentum now from the Trump administration. We heard last week from Larry Kudlow, who's the White House economic advisor. He had been buoyant over the past few weeks that reopening would be the answer to all of our problems. But then he dialed that back. And then we heard the same thing from White House economic advisor Kevin Hastett, that there is movement now from the White House, and yes, they are open to a second round of stimulus. Then we heard that Mitch McConnell, the Senate Majority Leader, after the Senate had gone home for their Memorial Day recess, got together, met with President Trump over a second stimulus. Now, we don't know the full details of what that is. Kevin Hastett saying, though, we're ironing out the details and putting this thing together. But he sees double-digit unemployment through Election Day, does the White House. Over 20%, we could have double-digit unemployment through Election Day, which is, remember folks, the Great Depression was 25% unemployment. He sees us heading there in the next month in June and then carrying that through the fall. So a new stimulus is absolutely needed. Now, of course, the one that's gaining the most traction right now is that $1,200 direct payment to the American people. That's part of the HEROES Act. Now, the first part of that hurdle is already passed. The House of Representatives already passed the HEROES Act. They handed it to the Senate, and then the Senate properly went on vacation. Or not properly, promptly went on vacation. So they're sitting on that bill. Now, there are pieces of it that seem to have bipartisan support from Republicans and Democrats. One of those pieces is this, which is this payroll tax credit. This is gaining a lot of momentum. And right now, there are people, both sides of this who are saying that they would support this bipartisan tax credit, which is similar to what we're seeing in other countries. We've seen it in Europe, where the governments of Europe and Canada and Australia would provide a paycheck protection program, putting it in place for workers up to about 80% of their payroll. Up to about $45,000. If you're making about $45,000, it would directly affect those low-income workers. So up to 80% of those wages would be covered by the government, allowing those businesses not have to funnel all of that money into payroll, but they could do other things and reinvest. They could even hire other people to bring them on board. So again, other countries are doing this. There's bipartisan support for that. That's in the HEROES Act. And by the way, they already passed a version of that in March. $55 billion was set aside for that. This would increase it to $155 billion. So that's at least part of it. If you currently have your job or you have employees and you're worried about having to lay them off, that would be a big piece of it. So the paycheck protection piece of this for businesses could pass. Okay, that's just one chunk of it though. There is though support for another round of direct payments to the American people. And we heard from the Senate Majority Leader, that they may be open to a direct payment into the hands of the American people. Now, where is that coming from? I believe it's coming from the Fed. It's coming from the Federal Reserve Chair, Jerome Powell. 3 times over the past week, he has called on Congress to get a round of direct payments into the hands of the American people. He said it on 60 Minutes. He said it during a Senate briefing or a Senate committee hearing. He said it again in a separate interview. So that's not something that the Federal Reserve really ever does, which is encourages Congress to pass some sort of legislation. He had to be very careful about the way that he worded it, but they read through the lines, they understood what he was saying. So I think you're going to have to see another round of stimulus money hitting Americans' wallets because Americans are hurting right now. So here's Kevin Hastett when asked about this. A second stimulus, yes, I believe is coming. How soon will it come? We're not quite sure. They're still working out some of the details. Will it arrive in the next week or 2 weeks? Remember, the Senate is on vacation this week. So once they come back, what pieces will they put together and open up? That is the question for Kevin Hastett. Take a listen.
Meeting with the president last week, we went over options, and I think that as we move forward, it's pretty likely that there will be a 4th phase of stimulus. There are a number of things, technical things that need to be fixed about stuff we did in the past and so on. And so, yeah, I think that pretty much folks think now there is going to be another bill. And the question is exactly when, but I think it's coming sooner rather than later.
Is that because the economic data is worse than what you were talking about just last week?
No, I actually think that the economic data are clarifying that you can really see the percentages of businesses opening up is closing in on 70% and so on. And so we are getting back to normal, but there for sure, if you saw the initial claims, there's still a lot of pain out there. We're looking at about 40 million unemployed folks and stuff. And so, yeah, I think that there's definitely cause for doing something else.
McConnell says this thing cannot exceed $1 trillion. The House obviously passed, asking for $3 trillion.
Yes.
So is that for sure? I mean, do you think $1 trillion is enough?
That we'll have to see what the details are. I understand Senator McConnell has a strong position on that, but I've not discussed the number that the president desires with the president yet. We've been looking at specific policies, but we haven't said it needs to be this or that. And so I don't know what the president's position right now is on how big it needs to be.
I ask because, Brookings says, almost 1 in 5 children right now don't have enough to eat. New York City just said yesterday 1 in 4 New York.
1 in 5 children don't have enough to eat. This is America. When Canada is providing $2,000 a month to their citizens, Australia, Denmark, Europe, subsidizing workers right now, making sure that their health care is taken care of. And this is America, where we've had this hodgepodge of programs where, hey, one senator says, I like this over here, we're going to stick that together with this piece over here, and try to put all of this together to make some sort of a coherent package, but it's been a mess. And then many of you asking about, hey, I'm on Social Security, I still haven't even received my check yet. And so the IRS, of course, addressed this yesterday, saying they're hiring an additional 3,500 people to get on the phones to answer your complaints about where your stimulus check is. That should tell you what an abject disaster this has been, that they have to hire 3,500 people just to answer the phones because they failed to get you a direct payment. What you have on file already, if you're a Social Security recipient, the Social Security Administration already has your direct deposit information on file. You've been receiving it for 10 years. But those departments don't talk to each other. IRS doesn't talk to Social Security. So you had to go on their website to irs.gov and make sure you go to the Get My Payment tab and put in your bank account information, even though the government already has it. Now they're saying if we can't get you a direct payment, we're also going to send you a prepaid debit card in the mail. 20 million of you are still waiting on that first stimulus check passed at the end of March. So they're going to send a direct payment to you in the form of a debit card so you can go to the bank or an ATM and take that money out. Others are still getting paper checks sent to them. Others who've been watching this morning said yours is set to come in at the 28th of the month or in a few days, so you at least are getting a date, they're now telling you. You should have gotten it weeks ago because Social Security, SSI, SSDI, they told us, the IRS said, you don't have to do anything, it's going to be automatic. And you should have gotten it within the first week when they did all those direct deposits. So anyone that doesn't think it's been a failure needs to get their head examined. But they're looking at a hodgepodge of programs right now. One of the programs is this $5,000 a month Social Security loan. Think of it as a loan, not as a stimulus, even though they want to couch it as being a stimulus. What would happen if this passes? There's bipartisan support for this. They'd give you a $5,000 loan from your Social Security benefits that you would pay back years later. So here's just an example. Let's say you're 50 years old. You would get a $5,000 check in the mail. Anybody with a Social Security number would. You could opt into this or say, no, I don't want it. You get a $5,000 loan. Then when you turn 62 and you're expecting to start getting your Social Security benefits, the first few payments will go to the government to pay back that $5,000 loan that you took out from yourself. To which many of you said, that's a joke. I pay into this already. And also there's major concern about this tapping into the Social Security Trust Fund, which only has about 15 years of solvency left to it anyway. It only has, what, $2.7 trillion in there? So we're just going to take all the money out of it? To me, I think this is a backdoor around trying to get it to collapse. You know, Republicans for years, and some Democrats don't like entitlement programs, but particularly Republicans have always hated Social Security, right? And so this is a way, I believe, for them to get rid of it if they wanted. But you know that Social Security is the third rail of politics. It's always you can never touch it, right? You can never touch Social Security, even if you're Republican. Hands off my money, right? But this could be a way to collapse the entire system. So I think it's, and it was born out of a think tank in Washington. So I think that this is a crafty way of trying to make that entire program insolvent. That's just my theory. But, you know, I think it's pretty sound theory, to be honest. So when will we see another stimulus check? That's the great question, because right now the Senate is on vacation. They get back next week, and the HEROES Act is sitting on their desk. Will there be pieces that they will pull out of it, like this piece that has bipartisan support? It's in there, and they could pull that piece out of it, that tax credit for keeping workers on the payroll, where you as an employer would be able to, you know, have government subsidy for that. Among the other big pieces of the HEROES Act, though, that I think should be put forward and the Senate should consider it, is the hazard pay for frontline workers. That's a huge piece of this. There should be another round of stimulus payments for small businesses that didn't get money the first time because some of these big companies went in and stole it, basically. I keep hearing, I'm struck by how many businesses are having to file for bankruptcy right now. If we have a paycheck protection program in place, the PPP loans for these small businesses, why? If they're able to pay their expenses and their employees with these loans, why are they filing for bankruptcy? If the government can step in and protect them right now to make sure that they stay solvent through this time when they can start getting sales again, you know, landscaping companies and movie theaters and other things, they can get back on their feet now that the economy is reopening, but they haven't been able to get these loans out, so you've seen just a flood of bankruptcies. So there are some good signs in the economy right now, but then we could see this second wave, and that's what I'm really concerned about, is this second wave of virus. Take a look at this video this weekend. As everyone was pouring into beaches, one of you said, hey, I'm in Pensacola. There was 400 cars trying to go over the bridge, and we couldn't because everyone was going to the beach. So everyone's going out to the beaches. Here is Lake of the Ozarks in Missouri. Take a look at this. As all of these people were out at the pools, no one wearing a mask at all, no one social distancing, everyone just hanging out by the pool. I mean, if we have a second wave of this thing, I mean, would it be a surprise to anybody? When you look at this, everyone hanging out in the pool, like swimming in that same water, 2 feet, 1 foot from each other, sharing drinks and everything. I mean, I don't know. I don't know. Let me know what you think about that. So that is your stimulus update for this Tuesday. If you are new here, please consider subscribing to the channel. You know, this is a channel where we have over 500 videos that help you build wealth, start a business. You can watch our videos, learn how to build passive income, learn how to invest in real estate, get outside of this government banking system where they can just print money. You know, if you're saving money in a bank account right now, you're losing. Okay? You should have your money in real estate, gold, silver, crypto. So please take advantage of that. And by the way, if you do want to get those free stocks, our friends over at Webull want to give you 2 free stocks just for signing up for their account. And they'll give you 2 free stocks. The stock market is up right now. You can sell the stocks immediately, and then you can transfer that money right back to your account. So it's like getting, and they say up to $1,400. They're also entering you for a chance to win a 3rd stock right now to celebrate their 2-year anniversary. So they're giving away a premium stock, Google, Apple, which can be, you know, hundreds of dollars on their own. So anyway, if you're interested, thanks for their support. Check it out at morrisinvest.com/Webull is the address you have to go to get those 2 free stocks. And so thank you for subscribing, everyone. I really appreciate all the support. Thanks for spreading this video with anyone that you think needs to know and get an update on this. If you've got somebody who is waiting on Social Security benefits, if wondering about their job, you know, child support payments, how's that going to affect it? We cover that all here on the show. So much love to all of you. I really appreciate it.